Good afternoon, everybody. David Pittiglio here, Streamline Business Solutions. Thank you so much for carving out some time and helping each one another learn about some different expense management tools that hopefully we'll all be able to implement into our businesses. First and foremost, I want to give a heartfelt sympathy to all of those who are going through this fast transition in the economy. I ask that we all continue our prayers for those who are sick or have lost someone infected by the disease. And I do want to encourage hope to everyone on this call that we will definitely get through this. And over the next 30 to 60 to 90 days, hopefully we'll all be standing at the other end with smiles on our faces and businesses worth owning and living for. If you don't know me, my name is David Pittiglio. I own a company called Streamline Business Solutions. Many of you on today's call do know me. You're probably a client of mine, or we've definitely touched base in the past in regards to your financials. But for those of you who do not know our company, we started back in 2009. The short story, it was uncertain times, so I know what it's like to pinch pennies and have to make difficult decisions. Through the years, we've grown a very successful business, which has been fantastic, but there's usually not a day that goes by that I remember the times in which we had to cut certain expenses, pray for different revenue sources to come in, so on and so forth. So I get where a lot of people are at, and hopefully today's webinar will help those in need and those who necessarily don't need it today, but maybe be a little bit proactive as the days and months go on. With God's grace and one client after another, we built a very successful business, 35 employees, 700 independent clients that we currently manage on a monthly basis, all with the anticipation of providing them financial statements that are useful in running and managing their own business, and then of course, having everything ready for tax preparation services. So with that being said, I figured my most favorite quote to bring it all back to the baseline is right here. And this is founder of LinkedIn, and Reid Hoffman says that an entrepreneur is a person who jumps off a cliff, builds a plane on the way down. I absolutely love this quote. It's something that is plastered in my home office that I get to read every single day. And basically it's just a reminder to myself that that every day is changing. I'm always having to shift and figure something else out. It's never a set in stone conversation about what's going to be here in this business. So I feel like I'm jumping off a cliff, and I feel like ever changing, figuring out how to build this plane so we can eventually land safely. So I love that quote. Thought I would share it with you as well. Nowadays, I spend most of my time on webinar and Zoom meetings with clients. We talk about their cash flow, their expense management. We talk about forecasting, just different business models, comparisons, so on and so forth. So I do get to talk with a lot of clients, again, in near all 50 states about their businesses and how things operate and kind of what's going on in their micro community in regards to business and things like that. Through conversations last week, we thought that this universal conversation may help all businesses being impacted right now. So I'm here today to provide maybe some different ideas that can help your specific conversation and business. As I get started and go through these slides, I do want to be extremely clear, very, very clear, that in no way, shape, or form, nor I nor my business advocating for debt for any type of a loan. If you know me and you know me well, you know I'm extremely debt adverse, and leverage to some other people may be the option. So I'm going to help you with some of those options today, but by no means am I specifically advocating for any of the debt options, okay? Now, let's get started on this slideshow. Let's talk about March, April, and May. I do want to focus that over the next 60 to 90 days, it's going to be a little rocky, and we have to figure out what to do in our businesses and how we're going to get past this. But I do want to remind everybody that this does not constitute, the next 90 days is not the entire fiscal year of 2020. Keeping in mind, many of our businesses have cyclical revenue cycles, meaning that Sometimes we have a really bad Q1, or Q4 is a lower revenue month quarter than in the summertime. So as we go through this next little dip in revenue sourcing, just know that it's not the entire fiscal year. So keep that in mind, please. Going back to my initial slide, now is the time to be the entrepreneur. Let's figure it out together. This is what we signed up for. We are excited about these changes. In my own business, I've been able to just come up with different ideas and how my staff works on financial statement, and it's been a fantastic change for us. And I don't know if I would have made some of these decisions without being almost forced to based on this economic slowdown. And it's been a great win for our company. Today, we're not talking about folding up your company. The goal is not to lock the doors and go home. The goal is how can we expense manage what we have going through our businesses. Now, not one solution is going to be the same for everybody. However, there's different ideas, and collectively together, I know we can all get through this. Today, we're talking about a revenue opportunity. With a decline in the revenue for most of us that are going through this, it's creating a cash flow problem. And we'll get into what that looks like for each and every one of you a little bit here as we go. But let's figure out how we can A, get some cash in the door, or B, keep some of the cash that we already have. What do we know thus far? Well, thus far, to an extreme gift from the IRS, we'll call it that, the IRS deadlines have been extended. It's an interest-free for the next 90 days through July. And there's a couple different things I think you should know. Number one, the filing deadline and the payments have both extended through the 15th of July, 2020. This applies to all of the individual personal taxes, business trusts, trust accounts, S corporation, corporate returns, so on and so forth. There's nothing that you need to do in order to extend your businesses or personal filings. It's an automatic extension through the IRS. So no need to call your CPA and ask them to file this extension for you. The extension also includes the estimated tax payments if you pay estimated tax payments. So usually quarterly, you have an estimated tax payment due for the following year's taxes. The next one obviously is on April 15th. The IRS has extended that as well. Keep in mind, this is only for federal tax returns. Some states may be following suit, but don't assume that each state is following the federal guidelines. So you still may owe your state income taxes outside of the filing. Highly recommend filing on time if you're ready. I think 70% of Americans get a refund every single year. If you're one of those people, it's a great time to file your taxes and be ready and get that cash in your bank account so that it can help you with some of the businesses and personal needs. In regards to our employees, there's some things we need to know. These are W-2 employees that we're talking about. These are not 1099 contractors. The Congress passed the Families First Coronavirus Response Act. This relates to companies of less than 500 employees, which I know is everybody on this call. There's a couple different ideas that are happening. Number one, we have the paid FMLA, the family medical leave. We also have paid sick time. And then we have what we anticipate the tax credits to be for both of these arenas. So for FMLA, there are different guidelines. There's a lot going on here. It's hard to sum up in just a couple bullet points, so definitely read into this. But an employee may seek, or a company may seek an exemption, and an employee must be employed with you for at least 30 days before FMLA kicks in. The first 10 days of this may consist of unpaid leave and may elect to use vacation time, PTO, and different accruals that they may have accrued prior to that. Again, this is FMLA. Emergency paid sick leave anticipated for a 2-week time frame, 80 hours for full-time employees, and it's prorated for part-time employees equal to the average of the prior 2 weeks. There's many different qualifications for the paid sick leave. something to do with if you directly have the virus, if you are taking care of somebody that has the virus. These equates to somebody having to stay home to watch their children because of school closures and things like that. Paid sick leave is not just given. There are stipulations to obtaining sick leave. If you are self-quarantining yourself without the direction of your employer, then I do not believe that it qualifies, at least on the literature that I have read. What does that basically all boil down to? Ideally, it's going to be a tax credit from the government. Now, we don't have 100% clarification on this yet. It is coming, and I have talked with different tax advisors as well as ADP, which is a national payroll provider, just to get clarification on this, and nobody knows the exact details as of yet. However, they do believe that the tax credit is going to be dollar for dollar, and they do believe that it will be based on the gross wage. So basically that means if you pay $1,000 in gross wages for sick leave for an employee, that you'll get a $1,000 credit when you go to file your quarterly taxes and withholdings based on your FICA. ADP, again, one of our vendor partners, they are working on adding new payroll codes in the ADP platform where you call in payroll. So pay codes and pay columns will be there with a target anticipated date of April 2nd, which basically means any time or revenue or monies that you're paying to an employee will go in those buckets. That way we can track the information. Hopefully that will help us get the credit a little bit faster. Again, there's specific provisions for self-employed individuals. Ideally, what I'm understanding as well is that there's no double benefit, which means that you can receive the tax credit on your for your staff members that you're paying for W-2 wages on, but you also have to add that revenue to your gross line item for the year for the business. Okay, so these are just a couple things that are coming down. There is a website that you are welcome to join. It is sitting here. I'll also send this out to everybody on the call. But this is ADP's resource. And basically through our partners, they have developed a small business resource center that is talking about state and local guidance, different tips and tricks for your business, and especially more literature on the Families First Coronavirus Expense Act. So you have an idea of what that looks like. This is that website, and there's different things that you can click around on and see what's going on. All right. Let's get into the nuts and bolts of today's presentation. My question to you is, what does it take to run my life, and how long can I live with or without a paycheck? I think this is extremely important. I think it's a great number to understand, and that's the start of how we're going to look at operating some of our expenses as we roll through the next couple of months. There's three sections to this. We have our household cash, we have our business cash, and then of course we have revenue, how we make money. In regards to household cash, when I reference this, I'm talking about everybody rolling through Starbucks to get a coffee. I'm talking about the hamburger and the potatoes that we buy at the grocery store. I'm talking about the mortgage payment on our houses, maybe some medical bills. I'm talking about your internet bills at home and the Netflix accounts and things like that. What is your household cash? There's somewhat of an easy answer to figure this out. It's not a foolproof answer, but at least it would give you a start. My recommendation is to pull a personal bank statement. And in most bank statements, at least the major institutions have a summary account. And what that looks like is it says, here are the different monies or withdrawals that came out of the account. In this example, that's about $36,000. If you take this number along with maybe your other banking accounts or maybe your credit card accounts, you can come up with an average dollar figure that your household is spending on a monthly basis. Again, these numbers add up to about $35,000. So for this example, this would be a household spend for a particular month, possibly on average, depending on what the other months have. Another way to do that is to get a distribution report from your bookkeeper. Again, if you're using our services, this is a simple email. You automatically get this report year to date in your final financial package with our team, but I would recommend pulling this up. And basically, this is going to talk about the distributions that came out of your business that maybe possibly went into your household. So again, example distribution report, January, February, and March. There's 3 months here. You can see that $30,000 was distributed out of the business and transferred into the personal household. There's some changing numbers here, but ideally what you can do is you can average this out and say on estimate, $10,000 a month is being transferred out of the business into the personal accounts. Again, that's just one more way to possibly get to understanding what your personal household cash burn is. Now, it's a little bit easier for the business cash. If you're using our services, this is simply looking at your month-over-month financial statement. Business cash is different. We're not talking about groceries and Starbucks runs. We're talking about W-2 wages to our employees. We're talking about outbound lead generation costs. We're talking about occupancy and janitorial costs. We're talking about technology and different costs in order to make sure our business is operating appropriately. And of course, office supplies like paper, pens, pencils, and all of that fun stuff. If you talk about the business's cash, I would run a P&L by month. Again, if you're a client of ours, this is in your ShareFile accounts. Run the full P&L, not just the direct. Many of us use the direct financial statement to look at comparable models of other business clients, which I think is a great way to understand your business. But for the cash flow conversation, we want the entire financial statement. An example of what that would look like is sitting here. Example profit and loss. Again, 3 months worth of information. If you go to your expense buckets down here, it says total expense. And then you can see 139.3, 139.8, 138.7. If this is your business, you can basically say that you're about $139,000 a month on average. That's what your business requires to operate on a monthly basis, okay? Which is different than the money you're pulling out for personal use. So what do those two things mean? Well, we're gonna try and figure out how much money and how much time you have before we need to start making some hard decisions. Let's pretend for easy math that your household cash is $5,000. Let's also pretend that for this conversation, your business's needs are $10,000. Between the two, your business and personal life, you need $15,000 a month just to open the door, just to break even and make sure everything is status quo. Now, let's talk about revenue. I've got doctors on the call today. I have home inspection companies, real estate agents, all kinds of different businesses that we help manage. However you earn money or make money is going to be your dollar figure. So let's anticipate that you are making about $15,000 a month in revenue based on your trade, meaning closings or inspections or surgeries, whatever the case may be. 15 grand a month is being brought in for work. That $15,000 a month is carrying your business and your household, 5 and 10, which means you basically are not profitable. And it's also basically talking about every dollar that comes in, you're spending on business and personal needs. If you have $15,000 left, you have 1 month to make some big decisions if that money runs out. Same conversation. If your monthly revenue is $45,000, that means you're profitable. If you have $45,000 left in the bank as of today, but your burn rate is $15,000 between your business and your household, you have 3 months before you have to make some decisions. Unfortunately, if you've got $5,000 in the bank and $15,000 worth of expenses, we have a problem today. we either need to start looking very quickly at some of the costs that we're spending, or we need to figure out how to earn more revenue. So that's the simple math behind the scenes that we all need to get to. I'd also like to add that knowledge is extreme power in knowing this, especially as we get into having a goal in mind. I do not want to walk through the jungle with a machete just slashing all of the trees around because I want to cut costs off my P&L and see how lean we can get the business. That is not the goal of the exercise. The goal of the exercise is to be specific and have a thought out process of what you need your business to look like over the next 2 to 3 months. Here are some examples of what I think would be a good idea for you to have a goal in mind. I want to reduce costs by $3,000 a month in the business. So if it's $10,000 now, I want to be at $7,000 by next month. Example, I will allow myself to use 40% of the company's savings before making major adjustments. If you have $100,000 sitting in the bank account, you're willing to spend $40,000 before we start slashing expenses. Have a goal, have a plan. And this is my personal favorite, of course, which is also my personal goal, is I refuse to go into debt in my household or with my company as we roll through the next 3 months. There's lots of different ways I think I can succeed at that, and I'm going to share with those with you today. There are some unintended consequences about going in and slashing all of the expenses that you have. Now is not the time to become an expert in another field, meaning if you have a fantastic ROI on your business coach who has helped you make uber amounts of money in the past, now is probably not the time to cut an expense like that. Your lead generation, if you're continuing to get 2 to 1 or 3 to 1 on lead generation, now might not be the best time to cut those certain expenses. Don't go into a new profession just because things are changing. The world hasn't stopped. It's just simply adjusting the way that it works, okay? So if you're in the real estate industry, don't become a plumber or an electrician as we go through these changes. Focus on what you're good at and utilize leverage for what you can, up until the point where you do need to release some expenses. With the conversations I've been having, closings are still happening, business is still moving, people are still eager to make money. So it really hasn't stopped, but it's definitely a different way of doing things. As I mentioned before, we are looking at a 3-month, hopefully, time frame, 30 to 90 days at that, to get through this. So the year's not over. What you choose to do now could affect the latter part of the year. So let's be cognizant of some of the decisions that we're making. If you do find yourself in a place or a need where you do need to start slimming down or renegotiating some of your costs, I would recommend requesting a vendor report from your bookkeeper. Again, if you are a client of ours, please do not hesitate to reach out for this report. What it looks like is this. Example vendor report. This is going to give you, over a specific time frame, your costs for your vendors. You pay GoDaddy or Google Storage, Hertz Rent-A-Car, Hilton Garden. These are all different vendors that you pay money to. If you can't request this from your bookkeeper, now might be a great time to ask if they know what they're doing. I see a lot of information coming over from a lot of different bookkeeping companies that do not have the ability to run vendor information because they're not doing the behind the scenes information accurately. So my point to you here is make sure you're paying attention to what you're slashing. Some of these items may be one-offs, like Hertz Rent-A-Car, only when needed. Others might be ongoing or reoccurring costs, such as Google or GoDaddy or something like that. But this will give you an idea. Now you can go back to GoDaddy and say, GoDaddy, can we do these costs, or can I get the same service for a different price point? How many Google accounts am I paying for in my business? If we have 50 email addresses that we're paying for, yet only 40 are being utilized, can I cut my costs down? How can I get more cash in the business by renegotiating or talking with some of the vendors that I have, and quite frankly, just holding your business's expenses accountable. Okay, these are great. This is a great report to look at, and it's all right there. Again, going back to that report, the question are, what is the return on the investment that you're getting? Can I get the same product or the better product for a better price with negotiation at this point in time? So just some different ideas as you roll through. As I looked through some of the commentary prior to today's webinar, some people are looking for some quick fixes. Actually, a lot of people are. By no means is this a all-inclusive list. However, these are some ideas that I think could be beneficial for you. Let's start off with vehicle expenses. Many people have leases on their vehicles. If you find yourself in a situation where you must get rid of your vehicle, there is an option to get out of your lease. I have personally used Swap a Lease before, not due to hardships, just because I like new vehicles. That's probably a bad thing, but I have used Swap a Lease personally. I think it's a great idea. Costs a couple $100s to get in. Basically, you list your vehicle and somebody else takes over your lease payments. It comes out of your name. They take the responsibility for it, and you can either go purchase something else at a lesser cost, or maybe lease something for a different cost as well if you need to get out. But now would be a good time to do that if you find it necessary. Vehicle expenses in regards to selling a purchased vehicle, especially if it's on your business's financial statement. If you purchased a new vehicle last year or in the last couple of years, and you spent $80,000 on a new vehicle, and you took 100% depreciation on that as an expense on your business, and now you go to sell it, understand there may be some recapturing of depreciation on this year's financials. Okay, so if you spent $80,000, you took an $80,000 deduction, maybe you sell it for $60,000, you've already lost 20 grand, you're still recapturing depreciation because you've already expensed it in a prior year. So talk with your tax consultant, understand what you're doing if you are selling a vehicle in your business to help with cash flow. Another option might be to call the bank and just ask if they'll extend your payments. We'll get into this a little bit more in a little bit, but there's nothing wrong with calling the bank saying, hey, hard times, obviously, I need to extend my payment. The next payment I can make is the month of July, and see if that's something that they would allow you to do, which may save you some cash flow today, which may help you pay for a different expense if you can. Gift card discounts. My recommendation here is if you know you're going to spend the money. My goal is not to go spend extra money just because we have a coupon. The goal is if you have a need and you know you're spending the money, can you get it for 80 cents on the dollar? Excuse me, card cash is something I have personally used. Quick story, I just went out and purchased a brand new firearm, and Bass Pro Shops not only had the firearm on sale, but I went to Bass Pro Shops here and found that I could get a $500 gift card for about $420. I saved about 15%. Why not? I knew I was going to spend the money anyway. I click on the gift card, I pay for it, I get a 15% discount. When I get to Bass Pro Shops, I spend the full $500. And from there, you basically get an e-gift card right in your inbox, so it's pretty immediate. And that provides you with a little bit of a discount if you know you're spending the money. Another idea for you might be to merge your payment methods. A lot of my clients, a lot of you may have sub-credit cards, which allows your staff and employees to pay for expenses at their will for needs for the business. Ideally, what's happening here is if you need to rein back the controls, I would request those cards back, and you personally, since you're the one covering the debt, to take those payments and be the one that purchases all of the expenses. Control the access to the spending if you find yourself in a cash flow situation. Here are some other ideas that may also help you. Renegotiate your agreements with some of your vendors. Like I said, your Verizon bill, call Verizon and ask them if they can give you a better plan, which will hopefully reduce your monthly bill by, say, $50 a month. Call your, there's just different ideas, there's different vendors. Use the vendor detail report that I referenced a few pages ago, and go down there and see if you can't renegotiate some of your agreements. Now, I want to preface that I prefer you don't be disappointed when you call a vendor and they decline your renegotiation. Not everybody today is in a cash flow crunch. Business is still running. Others have prepared for this type of scenario, and where a lot of us are possibly cutting expenses, they're increasing their expenses and they're going after the opportunity. There's definitely money to be made here in this economy. So don't be disappointed if they say no, but it's definitely worth a shot. I would recommend reducing non-essential expenses. Reducing your courier from 3 times a week to 1 time a week is just an example. Again, if you're in the habit, right, it's just because we've always done things like this. If you have the habit of having your courier come 3 times a week, why not cut them down to 1 time per week? Save a little bit, save on 2 trips a week. Just an example of reducing non-essential expenses. Obviously, if we're looking at travel costs, might not be the time to be traveling. So if you can, I would wait to spend money on traveling. But any non-essential trips that you're doing, cancel the hotels, get the money back if you need that money now. Now is a great time to talk about your office leases. If you have the need for it and you can no longer have the cash flow for your office rent, it's better to have a conversation than just not pay it. I would anticipate having a conversation with the landlord, seeing if you even have an early buyout clause that you could do, save some long-term cash. Again, it's just an option that could help you with cash flow. I was talking earlier about the tax credit through the IRS for payroll. However, if you need cash now, you may be able to apply for the disaster loan assistance. This is the Small Business Administration, and they are, of course, having technical difficulties today. See if they fixed it. They're doing maintenance. Yep. So there's a disaster loan service. If you get in here successfully, you'll notice that there's 3 buttons on there. One is to understand the affected areas. All of the United States is an affected area right now. You can apply for the loan directly right here. And then, of course, there's a button to get the status of your loan approval. Now, keep in mind there's requirements here. You'll have to have a decline in revenue of X amount of dollars and different things. It's just not free money. It is a loan, and you do have to qualify for it. I do not know how quickly the money gets deposited into your bank account, but this is an option through the Small Business Administration. Understand the requirements here. Again, this is going into debt as well. Forbes also listed a program or a bunch of programs on their website as of the other day, and I'll send this to everybody as well. But basically, this just gives you different ideas of different grants that are available. I will tell you that California and New York have some more lucrative grants than other states, such as Arizona. But this could give you an idea of where to get money. Again, I don't know how fast some of the cash is coming into the business, but this is another option for you as you look to seek assistance in helping the business. What monies do you have outstanding? Believe it or not, many of us don't look at the balance sheet on a monthly basis, excuse me, but there are some monies out there. For example, my attorney, they have $10,000 worth of my money. which means it's a retainer for the services that I may need in the future for my attorney. He knows my business well. He knows different agreements that I have very well, so on and so forth. The $10,000 is not my attorney's money, it's my money. So I can request that back at any given point in time. In addition to that, it doesn't impact his business, but it could help my business by influxing $10,000 into my business should I need it. So if you have other types of retainers or other money sitting out there, again, loans are a good one. If you have a personal loan, barring the person can pay it back, that would be fantastic if you can clean up your balance sheet and get any monies owed to you back to your personal household or the business. Commissions receivable, this is a big one. If you are a client of mine, you automatically get this on a monthly basis. It's on your balance sheet. Basically what's happening here is we are keeping track of the revenue that you have earned, but you necessarily haven't received yet. It looks like this. This is your balance sheet. Now keep in mind, it's as of a specific date. So if you got paid on this dollar figure on February 1st, it would no longer be applicable. But as of that date, this business had just under 20 grand receivable from somebody. We keep track of this for you on a monthly basis. So if you have some monies sitting out there, don't hesitate to look into that or ask us for our help in making sure that all of the receivables that you should have earned physically did hit your bank account. If you've got some significant cash out there, now is the time to collect it. In regards to cash influxes into the business, we also want to talk about merchant services and different contracts like that. If you are currently with a merchant servicer, meaning you take credit cards for your business, again, I have a bunch of people on the call today. We have pet salons, we have different attorneys and things like that. So not everybody receives checks. Some people do receive monies via merchant services. If you are on a 2 to 3 day time frame with your merchant services, now might be a good time to start renegotiating a next day delivery of your funds. And while you're at that, you may want to ask for a rate reduction too, meaning it won't cost you as much to swipe that credit card every time you do that. In addition to these quick fixes, payroll seemed to be one of the conversations of topic on everybody's inquiry for today's webinar. I do want to preface and start out saying that the cost to retrain your staff is one of the largest expenses a company can incur. Well, if you take into consideration the loss of time, the recruiting cost, hiring and training that it takes to bring somebody on board, I would hesitate personally. I would also just take a look at what it costs for payroll services before we start making rash decisions and cutting the entire staff. However, if you do find yourself in that scenario, this may be the solution for you. Staff reductions are definitely the name of the game. You hear it across the economy right now. For some small businesses, people losing their jobs, extremely unfortunate, and it is a solution to increase your cash flow. So if this falls in line with something that you need to do, you can definitely reduce the staff. If you are an S corporation and you are taking an officer wage, if you need some extra cash by not paying in the Social Security and Medicare and company match on your personal payroll, maybe you take your personal officer wage and postpone it for the next couple of months. Don't misunderstand. I'm not saying that to do not take a payroll for the entire year. You are still required to do that. However, if you postpone your payroll for a few months and then pick it up again in July or August, there's nothing wrong with that. Just making sure that you do meet the IRS guidelines. If you have the option, which could be a great win-win for not only the company, but for the staff as well, especially when we start talking about costs of recruiting and hiring, maybe we reduce the hours for some of our staff versus simply letting them go. So, hey, Tim, I need to cut your hours back to 20 hours per week. It's a win for them because they're getting a paycheck. It's a win for you because it's helping out your cash flow. So reducing hours versus removing staff could be a big win. Again, understand the long-term consequences. If you do furlough or lay off employees, they do have the ability to collect unemployment, rightfully so, and then you can rehire them at a better time. But this could affect your unemployment rate as you go into year or months to come with the people claiming on your ID number. So, but it is an option for you to help out some of the staff that you have. And then last but not least, through our ADP partner, they have a program called Plastique. And what's happening here is they actually allow you to put your payroll on a credit card. Again, I am dead adverse. I am not advising that anybody do this as a first scenario or option, but it is out there. And if you just need a month to get by, it may not be a bad solution for you. So Plastique, I believe, does charge about 2.5% on the funds that you draw. I'll show you what that looks like. Bear with me. This is Plastique. Again, we'll put this in the forum for everybody to reconcentrate on afterwards. But basically, this allows you to get more information on it, the pricing, how to sign up, and basically run your payroll on your credit card for the time being. Okay, so that is an option if you just need a month or so just to get by. Last but not least, been paying attention to some of the chats that are here in the comment section. We are talking about mortgage forbearance, a question about mortgage forbearance. We're seeing that people who are going through a tough time and losing their jobs are able to proactively call the bank, the financial institution, and see if we can get a forbearance on the mortgage. Again, if you can cut down your household expenses in this time of need, instead of having a $1,500 a month mortgage payment, there's an option to call your bank, see if they would allow you to do that, and basically tack on the 2 or 3 months that you're waiving at this point in time onto the extension of your loan period. So for example, if your mortgage is going to be paid off in September of 2045, and you take a 3-month extension now, maybe it's December of 2045. Okay, so it's just an idea, again, to help cash flow immediately if the bank allows you to do that. Understand the difference between 1099 contractors and W-2 employees. This is another question that we're coming into. Your 1099 contractors who may invoice you or have a different work status, they are not, to my understanding, allowed to obtain the benefits. However, you can front them money if the business so has the cash flow to do that. Of course, you can reduce their time or cut their expense at any point in time should you need to in the business. It's a little less tricky than if you have a W-2 employee working in the business. A lot of contractors are dependent on the revenue that comes in, so you may find that their cost goes down if your revenue is going down, meaning that they really only get paid as the business gets paid money. Again, we had a conversation about deferring or forbearing a mortgage payment. You could also do the same with a car payment. Again, don't assume the bank's going to allow it, but it might be worth a shot if you have a car payment to ask them to give you a month or two off on the payment. Kind of like when Christmas time comes around, you get the emails from the banks and it says, if you want, you can delay your payment for 60 days, while you spend money on Christmas time. That's a possibility as well. And then AppSumo is something that one of our clients just talked about. It is a place, appsumo, S-U-M-O.com, appsumo.com. That's a place where you can find emerging software programs where you can purchase them for a one-time fee instead of having the ongoing cost. So thank you, Ross, for sending that out to us. if that helps you, again, reduce some of your other costs, that could be a win for you. And then we have another question here. Where is the fat? Meaning, if I understand the question correctly, where can most businesses trim? And honestly, salaries and lead generation are usually where most businesses spend their money. It's usually the most expensive part of running a business. However, it's not usually where fat can be trimmed easily. When I look at trimming fat out of my business, I'm talking about me not having the ability to control my swiping with my debit card. This is me rolling through Starbucks whenever I want. This is me choosing to pay more on office supplies. It is continuing to pay for expenses that I've never even used in the business, so on and so forth. So to answer that question, I don't think the fat is necessarily one or two accounts within your financial statement. I think it's more about the habits of people spending money and in choosing not to, in this point in time, cut back on their non-essential items that they need to improve their cash flow. So that's where I think that that can definitely be trimmed for some of us, myself included. Outside of that, I really appreciate everybody's time today. I'm really happy that you were able to hopefully learn a couple things. Thank you for the questions. I hope and I pray that everybody has a great rest of the week in the next couple of months. I will be opening up my calendar for our clients over the coming month. If you have a need specific to your business in regards to understanding your financials or maybe making some decisions, I will open up my calendar between myself and Kristen. We'll do the best we can to service all 700 of you and help you if you need it. So please don't hesitate to reach out. As well as the vendor reports, they're not an automatic report that we send monthly, but no, you can request it at any given time. So be blessed, stay positive. We're definitely going to get through this. And I really honestly believe that we're going to get through this with flying colors in the next, hopefully, short period of time. Be blessed, stay well.